This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome everyone to the latest episode of Doc and Jock. Hopefully everyone stayed cool over the course of these 100-degree days. Hopefully your air conditioner didn't go out at the worst humanly possible time. I'm the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my guy, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz? It's a great time to talk about these Detroit Tigers. They had themselves a little bit of a downturn over the series against the Rays. It was, look, a little bit to be expected when you have a doubleheader, fly out past midnight, and then you play, early games on a Saturday. So you realize, okay, you lose 2 or 3 to the Rays. It was alarming because Flaherty gets rocked. Your pitching didn't look good. Bullpen days are not as the same as before. Some of the glaring issues that would pop up would indicate, yeah, this is some of the stuff that makes fans a little bit nervous in regards to the Tigers. We're going to talk about it because, look, we're not alarming the panic button with each series, with each week, but throughout the course of a season, little nuggets of information get revealed. And this was a series against the Rays where they get caught basically being tired, not being at their best. But I don't parlay it into what I think about the future because we're missing a huge, in my mind, huge piece of the nugget. This team is going to change. The one aspect that I think we can say here at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network is I do believe truly that Scott Harris is going to add to this team. So you can't fully evaluate if they're going to be a World Series caliber team until those moves are made. But we know what we can ask for. The grocery list is now starting to get made. And it's a bat, it's a pitcher, and it's a reliever. Just like we said on the podcast, just like a great writer in Tony Paul said online, you need 3 things. And it's starting to showcase a little bit of itself where here are some concerns in the pitching area, some depth that you could be concerned about. But were you alarmed at what happened over the series against the Rays? And then I'm going to share with you guys a hilarious story with how things went down with the nephew at Comerica Park for a doubleheader.
So it's not so much concern that they're scuffling a little bit, right? Or they're maybe not playing 700 baseball like they were playing earlier in the year. I was expecting at some point you were going to have a little bit of a regression. You were going to come back to the mean. At no point did I think this was a 118, 115, 110 win baseball team. I just didn't think that. I thought this team, after kind of getting into the season, I know early on I predicted them to go with the under, which I think the under was something like 83 or something like that. As we got into the season and you kind of seen what this team was doing, I expected this team to end up finishing the year somewhere right around 90, 95 wins. And I still think that that's very possible for this team. This is probably where they'll end up. So a little bit of that regressing back to the mean was expected, but it's how they're doing it that I think is the more alarming part and the more alarming problem that I'm having with it. It's your starting pitching, right? Which was supposed to be the strength of this team. You see a guy like Jack Flaherty go out there, and he was supposed to be your number 2. He was supposed to be the guy who was supposed to be able to back up Skubal, and he looks like he's Jekyll and Hyde. You know, there are some games where he looks really good through 6, and then there's other games where he's getting blown up in the 4th inning, and he looks like trash. I don't know what his deal is. I don't know what the problem is there. You look at Reese Olson, he's still working through coming back from an injury. You look at, stop me if you've heard this before, Casey Mize, he's hurt again, and then you've got Jackson Jobe, he's got he's going to have Tommy John surgery. So your starting pitching rotation has taken a monster blow. I know that you went and you grabbed Alex Cobb out of the nursing home and you laced him with a $17 million contract, but that guy can't get healthy. So I'm not 100% sure what you're going to do there. I'm not sure what your starting rotation is going to look like after Tarek Skubal. It's just a bunch of question marks right now. And then you brought up the bullpen. The bullpen is not what the bullpen was advertised to be. The bullpen is not what it gave you last year. And I think that was the expectation. Will Vest is a little bit banged up right now. Canely is fine. He's doing a great job. But after that, Bo Brisky's not great. You've got Brant Herter is kind of up and down a little bit, hit and miss. You're going and you're grabbing a guy like Carlos Hernandez off the scrap heap, and you're hoping to transform him into something. And this is a guy who, yeah, he can throw fast and he can throw hard, but it's all over the place. If you're trying to hit the broadside of a barn, sure, but that's not what the strike zone looks like. So your bullpen staff isn't giving you what they gave you, one, earlier in the year, but two, what they gave you last year, which is what I think the expectation was. So there's a lot of question marks with this team right now. And you're right. I do believe that Scott Harris is going to go and be a buyer. I think he's going to make a couple of moves. And obviously, starting pitching has to be at the top of that list. I think some type of a reliever has to be on that list as well. And we haven't even talked about the offense. Like, it would be nice to be able to get a right-handed bat that can play third and maybe even shortstop. That would be fantastic. But you're going to need to get somebody who can provide you with a little bit of power at the plate, somebody who can maybe knock a couple of runs in. Obviously, we talked about this a little bit last week. You go out there, you get a name. Those names are names because they tend to show up in the playoffs when the lights get the brightest, when the moments get the tightest, and you need a guy to perform. You don't want to just go out there and get a guy out of AAA. You don't want to just go out there and just get, some low-level player. You want to get a guy who's going to come to this team and instantly make this starting lineup better. So there's some work to be done. Now, there is no perfect team out there, but there is some work to be done. And we just highlighted a whole bunch of stuff that Scott Harris has to take a look at and has to kind of delve into to make this team better. What's your one major concern with this team as it sits currently constructed? Because we've talked about needing a starting pitcher, we've talked about needing a relief arm, and then we've talked about needing a little bit of offense and needing a bat. I've said specifically a right-handed bat. I'm not sure if you feel the same way, but there are pieces that are needed to make this team a little bit more complete. And look, I don't know if Scott Harris has the ability to go out there and get all three. And I think maybe we can talk about that after we kind of discuss our major concerns here. Yep. But what is your one major concern?
Starting pitching. Casey Mize left the game with a cramp. Now, luckily that was okay. Flaherty, I think, is a guy that against the best of the NL last year, he didn't look that great. He wasn't that great with the Dodgers. Now, he had himself some performances in the postseason that you could say, okay, are serviceable. But in the end, he's kind of shown he has that little bit of a capability of going off, and you can't go off in the postseason. Like, it's a little bit concerning when you're giving up 7 runs in a couple starts in a row. So you got to get him back in the mix. And so you recognize, all right, Reese Olson hopefully can become a guy that over the next second half of the year you can rely on, because here's what's happening. As a result of that, AJ Hinch feels the need to do this bullpen day, which has basically been a loss every single time. So you realize, look, I know AJ Hinch doesn't want to roll out a strategy that he doesn't think that will work, but unfortunately it kind of feels like he's getting his hand pressed with the schedule, the way it's went down, with some of the injuries, and you don't have that reliable starter after, unfortunately, Jackson Job's injury now at this point in time looks worse than what it appears to be for the team, not in terms of his health status, but the role that he had was good. You could have had a young guy develop and get out there. So you need Reese Olson to get back out there and help this team. But clearly, I think the number one addition is starting pitching. Get somebody that you can eat innings, maybe a mixed guy, number 5 pitcher out there that can go out there and handle business. The relievers, you maybe can shape and get some more out of. You hope that Lang gets back a little bit healthier. You hope that some of these guys are able to showcase a little bit more. But yeah, the bullpen is not the same as it was last year. So hopefully they change these bullpen days because it's been affecting. But starting pitching, I think, after Tariq Skubal, you got a little bit of a question mark because Mize has to then show up. Reese Olson's got to be a situation because you can't just go Mize. And if Flaherty doesn't turn it around, because that's a major, major disadvantage. But also, too, you do need some depth. You do equally probably need a right-handed bat to get some power. And basically, in the end, that guy, Eugenio Suarez, is a good guy. Maybe the Tigers should have kept him, instead of getting some garbage for him. That guy, 30 home runs every year. Damn, that was one shitty trade that these Detroit Tigers made. Get him back. In the end, there's been a debate about Cole Keith, whether he's a third baseman or not, but I just think you need a third baseman probably as equally as you do as a starter.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think starting pitching is probably the biggest area of concern right now. You got a guy like Reese Olson, like I said, battling back. You had Casey Mize, like you said, go down with the hamstring injury, and all of a sudden you start to get really nervous because you've already lost Jackson Jobe. Flaherty's not been the same guy, so you start to kind of have to piecemeal stuff together. And like you said, AJ Hinch starts doing this bullpen day, which hasn't really panned out. I think if you can get a starting pitcher, it helps steady and even out that lineup. You don't necessarily have to worry about what Alex Cobb is going to give you if he's ever going to be able to come back and be able to play. I think as far as your bullpen goes, you brought up Alex Lang. Alex Lang is a guy who's on the DL. He's dealing with a lat injury. He's a guy who's working his way back. I think if Alex Lang can come back and be some semblance of what he was last year, I think that bodes really, really well for the bullpen and is an instant upgrade for that bullpen. And I think makes it that much stronger. And look, you get a starting pitcher, you can kind of move a couple of guys around possibly. When playoff time rolls around, you can send two of those guys to the bullpen. They can be some of those. They can be your long relief guys. They can be guys who can kind of give you a start in a pinch if you need to. So you can do some different stuff with getting a starting pitcher. Look, I think that they do need some power. They do need another bat. But right now, for me, I think starting pitching is probably number one with a bullet point. And it's just because I feel like, similar to when we talk about the NFL and we talk about building rosters, you can never really have too many cornerbacks on your team. You know what I'm saying? You see how they just kind of go down. Same thing with pitchers. Pitchers just seem to constantly get hurt. It's a very violent motion when they throw. It's a lot of force, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and it puts a lot of strain on different ligaments and different parts of the body that aren't used to that type of stress. So starting pitching for me is number one, like I said, with a bullet point. Do you think that Scott Harris can go out and basically fill out that grocery list? Can he go out, get that right-handed bat? Can he go out, get that starting pitcher? Can he go out and get that reliever to really help fulfill a lot of these weak spots on this team? Now, the Tigers have a very good minor league system, one of the best in all of baseball. So it would seem as though he's got the pieces to be able to trade. Do you think they utilize those and go get what they need to really make a push for a World Series?
Yeah, just don't give up too many of the young guys. You know what I mean? McGonigal, Clark. If you can give up some others, maybe you need to. But are you willing to push a little further for a bigger name like an Aroldis Chapman? Would you be willing to give up one of those two? Because that's been the topic over these last couple of weeks, is how much of an investment should the Tigers make to get better?
I think if you sit down, you look at where you're at. If you're Scott Harris, you look at where you're at and you say, look, this is the guy who's going to really put us over the top, and this is going to help us win a World Series. Yes, I do it in a heartbeat. I give up whatever we got to give up to get whatever we've got to get to put us over. There's a lot of talk. Everybody always kind of brings up the John Smoltz trade, right? Well, making that trade help get you to the World Series. That's what this is all about. You got to get to the World Series for a chance to win it. And so I'm willing to give up guys to go get a guy who's going to start on this team and is going to help this team go win a World Series. So, yeah, in my mind, really and truly, there's nobody who's really off limits. Like, if there's something that you want out there and it's going to take a little bit more, I'm willing to give up what I got to give up to get the player who's going to help us win. Like I said, I'm big on a guy like Chris Sale. You can go out and you can get a guy like Chris Sale. If it costs you a McGonigal, if it costs you a Max Clark, I'm okay with it, especially since a guy like Chris Sale has a little bit of a contract left. He's got the rest of this year and he's got next year, and next year's actually really affordable. So he'd be your day. When he would come here, he'd be your number two guy behind Tarek Skubal. So I would be ecstatic about that. So yes, to answer your question, I'm willing to give up whatever we need to give up to get a World Series. I'm willing to make those trades. I'm willing to live a little bit dangerous, maybe hamper and hamstring the future to get it done now. Are you willing to do the same, or are you a little bit more, let's see what we've got, let's see where we can end up as we kind of approach the trade deadline, and then maybe we figure some stuff out. Maybe we don't get all three. Maybe we only get 2 out of 3 guys that we need.
Yeah, it's debate, man. It's all about how much you be willing to invest to get. And I'm all in because I think that, the window's probably this year and next. I do think that Scooble
Feel the same way.
Yeah, it's just do it. You know what I mean? I'm not worried about 2028, 2029. Get after it. Do what you need to do. And if you have to invest, a Chapman, a Bregman, a Eugenio Suarez, 3 guys. Why not? Why not go big and big? Why not ask?
What did you think about this? Did you hear the comments from Skubal where he started talking a little bit about his contract?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that kind of tells you, right? Tarek Skubal has put you on a timeline. Tarek Skubal has all of a sudden taken this team that was trying to grow to be good down the line and has now kind of accelerated it, 1, with his play, but 2, with this discussion about a contract. And if you didn't see the quote or hear the quote, it was something along the lines of, look, I really like being here. I like being in Detroit. But there's an ugly side to this game. It's not the beautiful game that you get to see on the field. There's an ugly side to this game, and it's the business aspect. And business has to get done. So basically, again, deferring those questions about his contract and how much money he wants to stay here. And look, I don't know if I don't think he's going to be able to stay here. So if you're looking to win, I feel like your best opportunity is in basically these next 2 seasons. Like, you've got this year and then you've got next year, because after that you're gonna lose Tarek Skubal. He's not coming back. I don't see any chance in hell where Chris Ilitch breaks the bank to re-sign this guy. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like you're on that timeline. Like you said, you've got 2 years to go out there and get it done.
It was one of those deals where I look at this Tigers team and I say, there's no reason that Scott Harris and Chris Ilitch should not look at this team and say, there's a chance. There's a chance we could get better with some bats and some reliable pitching. So I look at it, and you look at the numbers. You look at where this team excels. A lot of power. They're clutch hitters. They're running in scoring position. They definitely at times have the opportunity to score a bunch of runs. So I look at this baseball team and say, invest in it. Make the fans get excited. You know what I mean? Make Comerica Park was activated because for that doubleheader with Skubal, they pissed off Tommy Pham when the fans thought that the team got screwed. I mean, one call, the fans got lit up and probably some alcohol involved. So the podcast made some news, which is always fun. Sitting behind home plate, people thinking the Doc is riling up a Pirates player. No, but if you point your finger at us, we're gonna have to say some things. And so to see the fans of the Tigers get after it, it's activated. And this is the best spot to be in, cause you realize, cause that last year was the first time they won playoff games in the whole run of our podcast. So now to be talking about moves, advanced metrics, Javi Baez leading the AL vote is absolutely amazing to think about moving forward. That this team, now you come home, you play the A's. Like you have a tough stretch. You could lose 4 in a row. You're still the number 1 team in baseball. That's the caveat. The rest of the league is not catching up to you. So that's why this is fun, that I think this team can get to the World Series, and then let's see what happens. And I think Detroit sports are getting some luck, cuz now if the Lions can get some luck with health, cuz unfortunately you hate to say it as we turn our attention to the Red Wings and the Pistons, but it's starting to look like maybe there's some luck with teams that are getting powerhouses, maybe facing cap issues, injuries galore with the East in the NBA. I'll say this. Now's a good time to strike. If you're Steve Yzerman, there's a chance maybe the Panthers will get broken apart with what they got going on. There seem to be some names available, right? Do you think that the Red Wings can take advantage of what needs to take place in terms of talent acquisition? What do they need to do? Because I think you and I were in the same boat. Once the Panthers won, all we're thinking is, how the hell does Steve close the gap between the Panthers and the Red Wings? It just feels like, as we speak, this hockey club needs so much to get to championship caliber.
Yeah, and look, I think it's going to force, in order for them to get to where they need to be, I feel like Steve Yzerman has to come out of his comfort zone. Steve Yzerman has to do something different. He's going to have to trade away a couple of the pieces that he has that he so dearly covets and go out there and get a guy, maybe 2 guys, maybe 3 guys. You know, you've got cap space. This is a team that has some money to spend. They're a team that can take on some salary. So utilize that to your advantage. Go out there and try to get a guy or 2 and make this team better, because right now you can kind of see what it's going to take, right? You can see if you watch that Panthers Edmonton series, you can see the pieces that you're going to need. You need a top 3 forward, which this team, we can have arguments and debates on what you feel DeBrincat and Larkin are. I feel like both those guys would be very good top 6 forwards. I don't know if they're in your top 3. Everybody's counting on Lucas Raymond to take this massive step forward. Really haven't seen it. Going to need to see it going forward. And after that, it's just kind of like, all right, what do we got? You need another defenseman, preferably a top 2 defenseman. So you need to go out and make a move there. So you've got to find pieces. We haven't even talked about goaltending. The goaltending is a mess. So like if Kosa's not the guy, and again, Kosa ends up getting pulled from the Grand Rapids Griffins games during their playoff stretch, and he gets put on the bench. So where is he? The expectation was that he was going to step up and he was going to be able to take some spots and take some time. And he's not even making a push to be a starting goalie here in the NHL. So what do we've got going on? You've got a little over $21 million. In the NHL, that's a ton of cap space. You need to go out and find a guy. You need to go out and you need to be bold. You need to make a big move. The NHL draft is coming up this week or this weekend. It's taking place on Friday and Saturday. To be honest with you, I don't want Steve Yzerman to use the 13th pick. I want Steve Yzerman to package that and go trade and go get a guy. Do you realize this? You've got guys like Tavares I do not want, but you got a guy like Mitch Marner out there. You got a guy like Jamie Benn, Aaron Ekblad. You've got a ton of guys like Brad Marchand. I know he's older, but that's a guy that you would love to have in your team. He does all the dirty things that you don't want to do, and he does them, and he does them well. And the guy scores some really nice goals. And on top of that, that's a dude who's been there, done that, comes with that experience. And look, Florida was effusive in their praise of what he meant to their cup run. And how he helped keep them on pace to go and win the Stanley Cup and didn't get lazy, didn't get lackadaisical. He helped direct them and really push them to go where they wanted to go. So there's guys out there. You need to go out there. You need to spend some of this money. You need to go get a guy. Like you need a guy, like I said, in your top 6, and you need a guy in your top 2 on defense, and you've got pieces. Go trade some of these things. Go give up some of these. You've got some expiring contracts. I think JT Compher's might be an expiring contract. Trade him and trade the 13th pick and go get a guy. Go make a couple of moves. There's been some conversation around a player for the New York Islanders. Islanders obviously drafting number 1 overall in the upcoming draft, but a guy named Noah Dobson. Wings have been interested in him for a little bit. As a guy who had 10 goals, 29 assists in 71 games last year. He's a guy who can come in and he can slot in as your number 2 defenseman. He's 25 years old. He's got the rest of this year, and then you've got to kind of work out a contract. But you can do that. You've got salary cap. We've already talked about the salary cap that you have. Again, a big time deal in the NHL is different than a big time deal in the NFL or the NBA. Big time deal in the NHL is anywhere from $5.5 to $11 million a year. You've got 21. If you wanted to, you could go sign a guy like Mitch Marner for $11-12 million, and you're still going to have almost $10 million left over on top of any salary cap that you retain or that you end up getting back in return for trading guys. So like there are moves to be made. Steve Yzerman just has to get out of his own way, and he has to go make some moves. I want to see in this offseason, I want them to go out. I want them to get a big name free agent. Like I said, a guy like a Mitch Marner. I want to see them make a big time trade. Somebody who's going to slot in either in your top 6 for forwards, or somebody who's going to slot in I'll be generous, in your top 3 for defense. Somebody who will do that so you can bolster that. I would love to see Kosa come up and actually push for the starting job. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Okay.
And that kind of leads me to this, right? We talk about making trades. Kosa's not going to be the guy, because I almost feel like we're trending down Jimmy Howard territory. when Jimmy Howard was coming up, it was all this talk. Oh, he's going to be the next one. 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 And it took forever for him to finally get there. And then when he finally got there, Jimmy Howard was just a guy. He was just a guy. Like he was your buddy who had goalie pads, and he was like, yeah, I can kind of play. And you're like, all right, cool. Go suit up and get between the pipes. That was Jimmy Howard. Kosa's feeling like the larger 6'6" version of Jimmy Howard. He's supposed to be the guy. He's supposed to be the guy. He's supposed to be the guy. Well, when's he gonna be here? Oh, he's coming. He's coming. He's coming. Well, when? He got called up and they had him on the bench for 3 games last season. The guy didn't sniff the ice. Like, what are we doing? Like, let this dude start. Let him get some time. Let's see what he can do. Give him a legit shot to win a chance. Instead, you go out and you trade for a guy like Peter Mrazek, and you bring Peter Mrazek back for $4 million. Like, what are we doing? So, to me, I feel like this team currently having the cap space that they have is fantastic, but I feel like they have so many bad contracts. They need to figure out a way to alleviate some of those, and they need to go out and make a couple of moves and be bold this offseason, getting guys who can make an immediate impact. Like I said, get a top 6 forward, get me a top 3 defenseman. Let's go.
What
do you think they got to do, man?
Yeah, no, it's clear that you got to upgrade the defense, second and third units. I think that Seider was good, but I don't think he lived up to the expectation that he was supposed to have.
Do you feel like he needs
a shot in the arm, something?
Maybe he's not ready to be Batman yet. Maybe he needs a Batman. Maybe he's a better Robin. Maybe he needs that 1A and he can be the 1B.
Exactly.
You know?
It seems like, and the radio station was joking about it, it seems like it should be buyout central. Like buy out Tarasenko, buy out Hall, buy out all these guys that you don't think can compete and use that, whatever it is, 18 to 20 million in cap space and make a deal. Maybe be a little bit more aggressive at the draft to get some more talent. But clearly you got to have a scorer. You got to have somebody. I think there's a player, a center forward from the Panthers that people are liking as well, that you feel like you could pay a hefty money to. So you go and you find.
That would be Ekblad.
Yeah, Ekblad. Just find guys that can score goals to complement the likes of, it's Dylan Larkin, and you realize, okay, DeBrincat and Larkin are carrying the scoring bulk, but you need some more secondary scoring across your second, third, fourth lines to kind of keep this momentum going, because it feels like, all right, it feels like the way the team is assembled, it's very much in line with, you got role players, but they're not filling their roles. It's like, Tarasenko didn't fit. He got more comfortable with the new coaching change, but I didn't feel like he lived up to what you were thought he would be coming from the Panthers. So it just feels like a shot in the arm of talent. And in the end, cuz, we can look at it 2 ways. All right? You just said it. What probably needs to happen. Dude, we don't have to go out and acknowledge that this team was built wrong. Let us know. Let it prove to us that you made some picks. Bring up some young guys. Bring over the guys that are young, that are the future. What are you waiting for? 23-year-olds to be 26? Like, you're already wasting some prime years. A lot of teams play young players. Bring up your young goalie. Trade one of them, Kosa or Augustine. You don't need 2 world-class goalies. You pick one that you think is the best and trade the other one for some capital. Find ways to get a lot of these young guys up, because what's the worst that's going to happen? You don't make the playoffs. You haven't made the playoffs for the last 5 years. Let us start to see what the investment is, and let's go younger. Like,
real quick, let me correct myself. Alex Ekblad is a big time defenseman that people are talking about possibly for the Red Wings. The forward that I think everybody was talking about was Sam Bennett.
Yeah, Bennett. Yes,
the recent Conn Smythe winner.
Yes,
had the 4 goals in Game 6.
Absolutely. So
he ended up re-signing with Florida. Florida took care of him immediately.
Oh, darn it! That was, see, I think that it just that quick. You blink and they took care of him just that quick. He got a good contract, didn't he? 8 to 10 million a year.
I'll take a quick look for you and let you know. But yeah, I mean, I'm assuming they took care of him.
They took care of him. See, like a guy that gets the Conn Smythe, people were talking about him, what you could do. You recognize that if you don't, so you can look how tough it is externally. People are going to keep the best players that are out there. You look and you say, all right, let's go out there and play the young guys. Like, externally, they're more conservative. So let's go out there and find avenues to get this hockey club a little bit better. So I'm curious to see what they end up doing. But it has to be impactful, right? It has to be a little bit more impactful to upgrade the roster than you think. And I think you can do it with young players. I think you at least buy yourself maybe another year if we start to see, oh, these guys, like Hale, you bring up 5 guys, maybe 3 of them like look like something. I think you say, okay, the future's bright. But when you're saying the future's bright and you're talking about Patrick Kane coming back and these deals that you're making for guys that are past their prime and already experiencing success somewhere else, I do think that there's opportunities to kind of, right now, the fan base is more skeptical of Yzerman than ever before at the highest point.
Oh, for sure. And look, I apologize. I made another mistake. I must have misread something. I thought Sam Bennett got taken care of. There was conversations about Sam Bennett getting taken care of.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, Hope is back alive. Adam killed the dream. It's back alive. Bennett.
I think the word was that he said that he did not want to leave Florida,
right.
and I misunderstood that. I thought that they had already taken care of. They already had the framework for a deal laid out. So I apologize. My fault.
Dream big, baby. Bennett still alive to Detroit. Yeah, let's go. Get Bennett. Get some scoring. Get some hype. Let's go.
And look, that's a guy who's on the positive side of 30. Yeah, he's only 29, so not a whole lot of wiggle room there. But again, it's a guy who has performed incredibly well in the playoffs. He's a guy who can score goals. He's a guy who is a great complementary piece and could center a line for you if you need it. So
yeah,
I mean, I'm not sure what else you need to do here, right? Like Steve Yzerman has to make a move. He's got to be bold. He does all this stuff where he plays everything incredibly safe, and it's just not working out.
Exactly, just like the movie said, the classic. Steve, sell me this pen. Sell me why I should believe that you know what the hell you're doing, because this roster is not hype worthy at this point in time. So we'll see what happens. Now, cuz, is it bad that when Game 7 rolls around for the NBA, you get excited, you watch it, and then a player goes down and you go, oh no, you hope everything goes great for Tyrese Halliburton. But then I said, oh, the next thought was, this looks good for the Pistons.
Oh, wait.
That's what I was like, uh-oh, the door opens now. The Pacers just lost their best player. They're done for next year. Their run's over. But then you realize, okay, you shouldn't think like that. But clearly, when stuff happens across leagues, you wonder how it impacts your team. It feels like because the Pistons have an opening, if they can make some moves, that the pathway to win is a little bit cleaner. Now, what was so hilarious amongst the internet and the fans of Detroit now are feeling themselves is, guys, you are nowhere close to OKC. You're not in that class. Cade is a good basketball player, but he's not SGA. I love the correlation some were making, like, oh, well, the Pistons were young. They're one of the young teams. They struggled, and SGA wasn't great 2 years ago, but he took off so fast, and they added talent so quickly that they got one of the best. Do you just think that the OKC is just going to fall off the map? They just literally won the NBA title as the youngest team since the 70s. So
it's Sam Presti's dream coming true.
Their guys are not even 25 yet. Like they're not even.
That team is built to be a dynasty right now.
Exactly, and you got to get another superstar. So the only way that I think is if you make some kind of weird, crazy push for Giannis. And I know that talk is crazy, but you got to make more of an impactful move. And I know people say, well, what about Jaden Ivey? Look, they're good players. Like the Pistons are doing the going to work thing. Cade is a guy, okay, but you realize OKC has 3 guys, so you're nowhere near basically what would happen is what you just saw. You have Cade, okay, Tyrese, he might get a game winner, he might do some things, be impactful, but SGA and his crew are so good, so you need to, and you don't have a first-round draft pick this year, maybe you make a move to get one, but I just think that you got to find, let's just say, another Batman to the Batman that you got. There's nothing wrong with, why would we go 1A and 1B? Let's go 2 1As. Let's get more alphas. You need more alphas. This is a superstar-driven league. You need another one. And this shit's going crazy in the NBA. Teams are making their moves. Durant gets traded. Reporters are saying that this is going to be the wildest NBA deadline, wildest NBA offseason of all time. People could get moved. Who's to say you don't get a Devin Booker? Who's to say you don't try and get someone? Try something crazy. Who's to say you don't get Giannis? I mean, it's very far-fetched, but the thinking is clear. Upgrade. And I know some people will say online, well, you don't have the horses to make deals. Multiple first-round picks get a lot of deals done. Yeah. I know you can't trade all of them forever, but I would look at it like this is not football. This is draft and develop in the NBA. You know what that does? That sets you back because it feels like 2 teams now have lapped you, and that's the Pacers Excuse me. Yeah, well, you could say the Pacers with Halliburton when he comes back, but the Magic are starting to declare themselves. They're putting their hand in the cookie jar, saying we're a contender. The Knicks, if they get the right move at coach, they're a contender. And then you got everything out west where Houston might be serious, and OKC is the class. And you still got to deal with the Lakers, who have one of the best players in the world if they can tool it properly. So you could fall back pretty quickly. And who's to say that? There's no guarantee that you're going to be another playoff team. So you want to advance. So I do think the core is good, but we're talking about how do you go from being, okay, 1 round in, 2-round winners to being world champions. You need another Batman to the Batman that you got, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I agree with two Batmans are better than one.
And look, I would take it a step further. I would say that they're at least 2 players away.
Yeah.
Because you've kind of already laid it out. New Orleans is in a position. I'm sorry, not New Orleans. OKC is in a position where they're going to be dangerous for like the next 5 or 6 years. It's going to be really, really tough to beat them. And when you look at the East, it has completely opened up because everybody has a blown Achilles. You look at Boston, they're in this retool, rebuild mode where they're trying to sell everything off right now. You've got the Knicks in front of you. You've got Cleveland, who's possibly in front of you. You've got Tyrese Halliburton, who just went down, who was obviously a legit contender to you in your own division. He's down. He's not going to be back until 2027. So now is the time for you to make a run, right? And like I said, I feel like you need 2 different players. A guy who I've talked about a bit, Derek White, guy I like out of Boston. Boston's trying to sell off everything. They're right now they're trying to sell you Kristaps Porzingis, who's on an expiring deal. Might be an option there, right? You could trade for him, maybe see what you can get out of him for a year. And if you don't like it, you can move on. If it's not working, you can maybe use him for some trade collateral at the deadline. What about this? This is a guy that I hear a lot of people talking about. And he's very familiar with the guy who makes the trades. What about a guy like Zion coming over from the New Orleans Pelicans? What about going out getting him? If you bring Zion in, might not cost you a lot. Could be quite affordable because sounds like he's trying to get his way out of New Orleans. It sounds like New Orleans is kind of done with him. Then you could possibly go out and get Derek White. And all of a sudden, there's kind of your big 3, right? You got Cade, Derek White up at the top, and then you've got Zion down low. You put a couple of pieces around these guys, and next thing you know, you could legit be a contender, and you could be in the mix to win an NBA championship. What do you think about something like that? So I think they need 2 more pieces. I think they need 2 more guys.
Did you know in the 120 seconds in which you mentioned his name, he gained another 8 pounds? Did you know that? It's one of those deals where he just the second that we just talked about him, he's in a restaurant now, probably getting a double of everything that he's there. Bro, he would come here. I think the joke is he gained probably 40 pounds in Detroit. All the food, he'd probably be like, "What's your favorite?" Zion, Doc here of Detroit Sports Podcast. What's your favorite, American or Lafayette? He'd be like, "Yeah, a lot of both." I'd be like, no, you're allowed one. No, one. A Lafayette or American Coney. He's like, I had 3 of each, and I can unequivocally say, order me 3 more. And I'll be like, of each? He'd be like, yeah, what are you talking about? I'd be like, no, you know you're a basketball player. He'd be like, yeah, what's wrong? I'd be like, you just inhaled 9 Coneys. That's not part. He's like, yeah, what's wrong with that? And I'll be like, okay, all right, whatever you say, Zion. I don't think that's the guy, just in terms of it doesn't feel like it's the mentality. Like,
I got you.
I don't think he fits. I think you need to stretch for a guy that you believe is clearly going to be somebody to open up the court, that can be a nice rebounder, somebody that can extend the floor and shoot. You need reliable bodies. Zion's a nice choice because of his affiliation to Trajan.
Yeah.
But I just don't see I just don't feel like the commitment's there. He got paid, and he just doesn't seem like he's a professional.
My issue is when you look at the free agency list,
it's not.
There's
great.
A whole lot of guys that I don't want.
You got to
know what I'm saying?
You got to make trade. Yeah.
There's like nobody out there that I'm willing to spend the money on. Like maybe Miles Turner if he becomes available.
Maybe
we kind of talked about him the other day, and it sounds like he's probably going to stay in Indy. So like,
okay, we'll see.
Dude, I don't feel like there's a guy like free agent wise, that I'm like, okay, we've got to go bring him in. We've got to go get this guy. So you're gonna have to trade, and I feel like you've got a really good piece with Jaden Ivey.
Yep.
That's a guy who I feel like you can trade and you can package and you can get something meaningful back in return.
Okay, we'll see. But yeah, I think that's where we're at with these teams is good drafting. That's the step one. That's step one of success for the teams is you can identify talent that fits your culture. Pistons, Red Wings. You could argue Red Wings, maybe we haven't yet to see it, so we can't obviously talk about it because there's a bunch of guys in the minors. But the Tigers and the Detroit Lions start to have a young core of talent that, okay, is waiting in the wings. No problem there. The next step is you've developed and coached some guys that are already on the big clubs. Great. We like what we see with Chris Federer and the Tigers. We like what we see with how Bickerstaff got the team to buy in. Dan Campbell has assembled a lot of NFL players that understand how to connect with players. Now the next step is, and it's been a pervasive kind of theme with these teams, is once you get your core, what are you surrounding them with externally that gets the cherry on top? No cherries yet for these teams. No sugar, no cherries yet, no extras. So that's where the next step is how do you, the Pistons started with Beasley and Harris. Those are good role players. That just got you kind of to be competitive. Now you need to make those competitive moves to bring guys in to put you over the top. And here's the move that Adam and I will relate to. Two of them that we can talk about. Rasheed Wallace and Brendan Shanahan. Just think in that mindset because going to work Pistons were built. They were put together. It wasn't a fully drafted team. You went out and got Ben Wallace. You went out and got Chauncey, underrated. You went out and got the final glue guy, a little bit rugged, and who could shoot, Rasheed Wallace. Brendan Shanahan, the team knew that they were getting dominated by the Avalanche. They weren't physical enough. They went out and got a premier power forward back when it was just the thing. And Brendan Shanahan came in, and it was like literally a bolt of lightning in the 90s. A bolt of lightning where he comes in, and you're like, that's the guy. That's the guy. And so that's what we need next. If you're listening and you're older, you understand the team's made moves in the past, but recently with investments being higher and what it takes, you got to overpay. That's the difference is you got to find creatively, maybe not the A++ free agent that's a superstar Giannis, but not a guy that's like where Adam went with Zion. You know what I mean? So you want to go right in that little sweet spot.
I was trying to do stuff affordably.
Yeah, exactly. But
not having to give up a ton.
Yeah, no, Zion will be closer to hanging out with us at the 8 Mile Palace than he is going to be in the gym in the offseason. So that's not a good thing. He'll be like, Doc, where's the greatest Sorokies? I'm like, they're on every corner. He's like, I can't find it. I'll be like, listen, man, you got to be in the gym. Why aren't you in the gym? He's like, I don't get in the gym until September. I'll be like, it's June. You're gonna eat every day till August? He'll be like, yeah. He'll be like, how much weight you gonna gain? He's be like, 40 pounds. How much you gonna lose? 13, and then 13 in camp, and then so wait, by like November you'll get in playing shape. Maybe December, Christmas. So you're like, no, man. Listen, I understand. We're in the parameters of a cap, and we know that Cade's gonna start getting his money ballooned, and people want to see what Jaden Ivey. So there's more of a chance that they run it back than they do getting somebody that's a premium talent, another Batman. But hey, a Robin is good too. But I just feel like the teams are just a little bit more afraid of getting more Batmans. That's what we need. We just need a lot more Batmans in town. And hopefully this fan base gets it because it's a great opportunity to take the next step. And that's, I think, the great point that we're going to follow all summer is what do these teams do to construct to get that next step from being a playoff entrant to being a playoff winner. Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. We'll be hanging out around the Detroit Golf Club this week during the tournament, just bringing you some stuff there, interviews and fun stuff. The Rocket Classic's always been great to Detroit Sports Podcast. Adam and I enjoy watching golf, getting out there, trying to get a little bit better each and every week, and the PGA Tour has been very friendly. So stay tuned. If you agree or disagree with anything we said today, if you think the Pistons and Lions and Tigers should just trust their own. If you disagree, if you believe Steve Yzerman has the guys cooking in the minors, let us know. Let us know if you disagree. We're open to discussions at Detroit Podcast. Cuz great recording. Stay cool out there. It's wild. It's 100 degrees. It's been an inside week, but we just want that happy medium of 75 and sunny, not 105 and sunny. So stay cool out there. Everybody can't wait to fire it up next week on the next episode of Doc and Jock.
You fucking podcasters. I said don't let them in here.